You're listening to Releasing Trauma, a survivor's podcast. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. Actually, honestly, I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but we're going to really be kind of focusing on, transforming ourselves and how we go from trauma survivors into amazing people. With me today is Jules, and she is a woman who has lived 2 lives in 1 lifetime. So I'm kind of interested to hear about what this is like. So Jules, welcome to the show.
Well, hey, thank you. I'm glad I'm here. Thank you for finally putting this together so we can sit down and have a chat.
Yeah, no worries. I know it's, I think we've been kind of bouncing around for a couple of months trying to get this together, but hey, divine timing, it all comes out when it's supposed to.
Totally. Yeah. This book has been phenomenal. It was nothing that I expected. I was just a girl who got sober. I thought writing a book was going to help some other girls get sober. And it's completely catapulted into a whole new dimension. So
tell us about the book, The Making of a Woman from the Inside Out. Or is it just The Making of a Woman?
You can say either way.
Okay.
Actually, the title of it came to me in meditation. And so that's the word. But most of the time people are just The Making of a Woman, because I think that's a mouthful after that.
Right.
But like I said, I got sober. But before that was that part 1 of life. And that was, life living in the Midwest. It was in the mid 70s. So if you can imagine, resources were quite limited, and even more so for women. And I say that because my mom was my primary parent. And so, her navigating through the journey we had, I can only imagine how limiting and how frustrating it must have been. So when I was very young, I think about 6 years old, I had a fabulous little family. I loved my daddy, my mom. We had this great little place out in the country. I had my dog. His name was Yogi. I mean, it was just kind of the picturesque, perfect family. But little did I know, behind the scenes, my dad struggled with alcoholism. And I've only saw one side of him. So I would see the remnants, the beer cans and that sort of thing. But hey, let's face it, it's the Midwest. I mean, that's what we do. There's always, the returnables waiting to go back to the store to get refilled. So it was just normal. It was just normal. But apparently one evening my father came home and he was just at his wit's end. And it was very late. So if you can imagine, it's very cold, it's very dark. This is my perspective from a child's point of view. And apparently he was struggling financially. We were having a lot of problems. My mom, of course, was making minimum wage of God knows only what that was at that time. And at this point, the best decision he could choose from was, his best choice was to attempt a family suicide. And I say that with an open heart because I have absolutely no idea what it feels to be at that depth of desperation. I have no idea. And so all I can do is just, again, keep an open heart. But so apparently what happened is every time my father would come back to say goodnight to me and ultimately goodbye, my mom would take the gun off of the kitchen table and throw it over the porch. He would come back out. He was writing the letter. He would go back and tell me good night, goodbye. And this cycle repeated for a couple hours, I guess. So thank goodness that none of it was played through. My mom got a phone call. Of course, we talked about divine timing. And so the phone call allowed her enough time to leave leave the house. And so she came back and swept me up, and I can still see I'm in my Holly Hobby pajamas. My Grover's in my arm. Yes. I've got my blue Grover from, Sesame Street, and it's late, and I'm all bundled up in this winter coat, and, we're taking off down the road, and I really have no idea what's going on, but in my world, everything is fine. So, fast forward, I didn't see my father for 25 years after that. And it was quite devastating because he was such a profound person in my life. I mean, I was daddy's little girl. So my mom then quickly remarried. And I just have to, again, take it from standing back looking at this. It was probably the best thing she could do for stability and ultimately survival, right? And so she married into a semi-large family. And so I became one of 6 kids, and I got lost very quickly. And so, it was very dysfunctional. There was a lot of verbal abuse. My stepfather was in the military. So there was that very much that domineering personality. So my loving father had been replaced with kind of a drill sergeant. Yeah. And then my mom also kind of went into this whole different space. And literally, like, how we moved into a trailer, and the layout of the trailer is my mom and my stepfather, their bedroom was in the front of the trailer, and all of us kids were in the back of the trailer. So really what's taking place is that this, emotional and psychological separation, but ultimately the physical separation is taking place. And so everything's happening so rapidly, and it's so overwhelming. And I just kind of got lost in the shadows. With that kind of, domineering personality, that was the safest place for me to be, right? Is quiet and just kind of tucked away.
Right. Invisible.
Yes, totally. And this is really when the sexual abuse started to take place. Once I got lost in that, in that whole system, the setup of that, this is back in the time when siblings would, the parents would go to work, and then the siblings take care of the other siblings to make sure we all got to school. Right.
Right.
So, it really left me in the wrong hands. And so, this went on. This went on for about 3 years until we actually relocated to another state. And there's a part in the book that it was just so profound. We were in the moving truck, right? And this particular stepbrother did not move with us. And so I saw him on the curb as we were driving off. And in the mirror, when you drive away from things, they get smaller and smaller,
right,
and smaller. And that was profound, because that was like, he's going to, again, disappear, invisible, right? And that felt great. That was great relief to me. So yeah, kind of like life just went on. We moved on to the state of Washington. My mother had another child, and it was just very weird. It was weird. There was not a lot of outside resources. We were very much kind of the alcoholic minded family of, what happens behind the doors stays behind these doors. So we had that to life type of persona going on, which was very confusing to me as a child. And then when we then relocated again down to California, and if you think I'm now a girl who is coming into puberty, and I'm in California, and I'm a blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl, and I'm like, wow, people really notice me here.
In my element.
In my element, exactly. And people noticed me. I mean, they want to talk to me. They want to get, so this is like very attractive, because remember, I've been in the shadows. Yeah. So I'm getting this attention, and it's just, it's like liberating almost. And so at a point in time, we went off, it was a YMCA camp. And this is back in the day when they would load all these kids in the bus, and they would take off to Santa Cruz. And for the weekend up in this, kind of, I'm sure it was like a Girl Scout type of like Cub House or whatever. But we all went out into the woods, and we had all little cabins. And I mean, I'm free. I'm liberated. I'm talking. I'm feeling alive. And little did I know that as I'm sharing and being open. And some of my life comes up into conversation that ultimately those counselors by law are required to report any abuse.
Yep.
So I didn't even know that I should be hiding it because I just felt so comfortable. Needless to say, I didn't go home. When we returned back to our home in Southern California, a call went out to my mom and saying that, Jules will not be going home. She's going to be staying with me tonight. And this was one of our friends. So, and that's really where more confusion came in. I once again, it's like, wait, I was finally just feeling normal. And now you're going to take that away too. So it was a lot of this, kind of this back and forth. And at the time that YMCA counselor was also going through a separation. So she was coming into this great liberating point in her life, which involved a lot of men, a lot of drinking, a lot of pot smoking. And I just blended right in.
Yep.
With those older men, drinking, smoking, because these are the life skills I have at this point, right? There's been a lot of abuse that's happened, a lot of rage that's occurred, right? It's occurred over the years. And so finally now it's like, I really get to be 100%. Ultimately with me voicing the truth, that family unit was dissolved. They went through a divorce, and we actually moved back to the Midwest where we first had started because of family, having connections and stuff there. And also I have a younger brother that a child that the two of them have made. So we have, child custody issues and such. And so when we moved back, I am probably around the age of 15 at this point. And I'm a wild child. I got a voice. I've got a lot of rage. Which means I've got power. And now I'm puberty. So like I'm fully developed. I'm getting this attention. And so in other words, I've got the reins for the first time in my life, having no idea that these are not healthy reins to hold on to.
Right.
Like this is not the ideal vehicle to move forward, but let's face it. I mean, it's a vehicle. So, we moved back to a small town and I start high school and, I'm already smoking with the kids on the corner. I'm always already with the burnouts. I mean, I'm predisposed to this already. My destiny was pretty much set at that point. And so, one afternoon, I was called into the counselor's office and, we were reviewing and they do this little, check in with you. How are you doing? And the counselor actually said, Jules, you're probably not going to be very successful here. I want to talk to you about an option of getting your diploma another way. And I thought to myself, holy shit, he's given me the green light. Like if I drop out, I'm totally free. So this is the only thing that's really constraining me was the educational system. So he gives me the green light because he sees that, I'm a complete misfit for this small town high school. And I grabbed that light and I ran with it. And that's really where, drugs and alcohol became a big part. Of course, you attract what you are. And so, I was attracting a lot of characters that probably were not of my best interest. And, during this whole thing, that drive, people ask me, like, God, how did you just keep going? Right. And whatever that drive was, I think I want to say it was a bit of ego, because that ego is what made it intolerant for me to confine or stay in any one place. And so I just continued to move through relationship to relationship, job to job, situation to situation, because all I really desperately wanted under all of it was I just wanted to get my feet underneath me. I just wanted to get a job that paid me enough that I could put a roof over my head. I didn't have to be a chameleon to whoever was supporting me or, the girlfriend that I had to be. I wanted all that to go away. And I just wanted to be self-supporting and to do this shit on my own. Right. And so I ended up with 7 transcripts during this journey of moving. And I would move every 12 weeks. That's how quick my relationship spiral would be. So I could come in, I could be this amazing, fun person. It would start to tilt. It would start to go south. And before you know it, I'm grabbing my black garbage bags and I'm saying, F it, I'm out of here. Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
My parents used to have to write my address in pencil in their address book.
The address book. Do you know how many phone numbers my mom had in her address book for me? Because every time I moved, I had to get onto their cell plan, which means I got a new phone number. Oh my God, yes, I totally get it. Yes. And so, this went on and this actually went on for 19 years. So whatever that drive was, again, I identify it as ego. I today have no desire whatsoever to kill the ego because that ego saved my life.
And there's a place for ego. There really is.
There is. That's why we have it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think Source gives me things that I don't need to use, And so, yeah, I think it was very, very beneficial, so it came to a time where, I'm circling the drain. I've bumped on the bottom. Really, I've hit the bottom probably about 3 times. Mm-hmm. I'm moving all over the United States. Grand Rapids, Michigan, down to, Sulphur Springs, Texas, to the San Fernando Valley in California. The internet was that was it, because behind this, as we know, behind the keyboard, I can be whoever I need to be and whoever I needed them, however they needed me to be. So I would chameleonize and I become this person, create these relationships, and then ultimately go visit, but then never leave. So yes.
I get it.
Some people are like, I don't get that. I'm like, so you're never going to know what it's like trying to tell somebody what a banana tastes like. You have an idea, but you don't get it until you're actually that woman in those shoes.
Yep.
That devastation, that feeling of constant failure. The idea that when I look every day, I would see women who looked like they had it all together. Oh my God, they'd be dressed to the nines and they'd have a nice car. And, the car had the same license plate as the state we lived in. It was just this constant reminder of how bad I had failed, even at my greatest intentions. I put everything I had. I was surviving. So the turning point was I was in a city in Texas and I was dating a woman and she happened to be working. It was a Sunday afternoon. She was working. I was hanging out with some of our friends and, we're driving around Dallas and I just said, nonchalantly in a conversation said, I just wish I didn't drink so much. And at that moment, the 2 people in the front seat were both in recovery. I had no idea even what that meant. So it's almost like I joke that their little ears went up like antennas and they were like on. The one in the driver's seat, exactly. Yeah. The one in the driver's seat is calling her mom saying, I'm going to meet you at this meeting. The other one on the other side is asking me questions. And do you want to do this? And they're completely 12-stepping me, right? Like we're going to get this girl where she needs to be. And within like a 30-minute window, Source was all over this. 30 minutes, I'm sitting in the rooms of recovery. I can still feel that metal, cold, nasty chair underneath my bum. And I'm sitting amongst these people that look nothing like me. I really don't even like who they are. Like they're smoking and they're laughing. And I'm thinking, you know what? This is just not my place, right? Like,
right.
Life is not funny. And we're not jolly and joyful. Like I'm trying to live, get my feet underneath me. And there was something magical that happened in that room. I've been taught a God through, my upbringing. My mom was Catholic. but I had no idea what spirituality was.
Yep.
And looking back now, what happened in that room was completely a spiritual experience. The women there, the hugs they gave me, it was the first time I had that sort of attention in probably 15 years. Genuine. I care for you. I want something better for you.
Yep.
I hadn't had that in forever. And actually, my mom kind of fell to the wayside earlier than that, right? So to get that sort of impact was like life-saving. It was almost like I took that first breath again. I finished that meeting and this envelope came around and all these fantastic women, their numbers are on there. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they want to be my friend. Like,
yep.
And they say, Jules, come back tomorrow. And I'm like, I have not heard anybody tell me to come back somewhere in a long ass time. Like, because remember, I'm always grabbing the black garbage bags and hightailing it out. They're like, right. Get out. And so I'm just having this amazing experience. Once again, very confusing, right? I don't even know what's going on here. What are the rules? How does this work? And so over the course of the next year, I went back to the rooms of recovery every day. I showed up there. I was inappropriate. I was inappropriately dressed. I talked like a sailor. Everything about me was off, right? Because I was at that depth of life of survival.
Yep.
And so when you take drugs and alcohol away from somebody who has been constructed like me, I'm a time bomb. Like alcohol was my solution. It was the Band-Aid that made life doable. So you take that away and it's like in this eruption, and every day was different. My mood swings were all over. I mean, physically, I'd feel good. The next day I'd feel like crap. I mean, it was just this like metamorphosis, like thing taking place. But all I did is I kept driving towards that feeling that I got when I went into the rooms and they said, hey, Jules, good to see you. Glad you made it back. Why don't you sit up here with me? Holy shit.
Right.
Like oh my God. It's like they're just chiseling away the ice around my heart. Oh. That next year it was rough. It was really rough. I was getting sober in the rooms of recovery. Yep. And as I continued to put one day upon the next day into the next day, it's like, these layers of armors that I had acquired over the years had started to kind of peel back. We talk about the onion layers are peeling yep. back, right? Yep. And so I always envisioned that like these hard plates of like metal armor, because that's what I needed to be out there doing what I was doing.
Sure.
And so, it's this beautiful transformation that took time, but I never did not go back, right? So whatever shitstorm may have happened, that was now my safe place. So whatever happened outside in the world, it's like I came home, like the real home.
Right.
And I could just be. And it was ugly, but it was so beautiful at the same time.
Well, you're surrounded by people who get it, for one.
Yeah.
And, they know that the ugly is temporary and that it's just a healing process. You have to, to chisel off that outer shell in order to find the fruit. So yeah, I mean, you're surrounded by people who they get it. And that is so crucial.
It's, and you can't buy that.
No,
you can't. And you can't ask for it. I think that's what the most miraculous thing about it
yep.
is. We are a bunch of misfits who gather together under a common idea.
Right.
But it's exactly what I needed. It's exactly what we need as humans.
Yep.
Don't try to change me. Don't try to tell me, oh, it'll get better. Don't tell me not to cry. No, in fact, we're going to be like, tell me about it. And then did this happen? Did this happen? I mean, like completely like hold space for you and just let you have your meltdown. Yep. And that's exactly what I needed, like you said, for that healing process.
Yeah. They accept you as you are, where you are.
Totally. I think they say, we'll love you until you love yourself. Oh my God. Oh my God.
There you go.
Right. So part two, even though it sounds like I'm on completely the opposite side of the world from where I had come from, I still carried over all the behaviors, all of the belief systems. So getting sober and removing the drugs and alcohol at least gives me a common ground, like I'm on ground zero at least. But then what takes place is then just perception, to know that I can be in a room full of men and I don't have to worry about being harmed. I don't have to worry about, is he going to touch me? Is he going to rub his hand across my back? There's none of that that's taking place. Right. And so I'm unlearning this because I'm a warrior, right? I'm used to battling everything. Like I will bring in a machine gun to a pencil fight. I mean, I will clear this place out. And so I had to really learn to put those weapons down. And so it's twofold, right? It's like I had to A, trust the place I was in, but then B, trust myself enough to lay the weapon down. And so I always say, if you look good doing it, you're not doing it right. I mean, like this is scary stuff. This is really scary stuff. And so you may take one step forward and 5 steps back, like we said, it's this process. But I'm grateful that I continued not to pick up the drink. I picked up the phone instead of the drink. When I got in a bad situation, I went back to the rooms. It's like I did the baby steps that made that ball start really rolling. And now I'm grateful to say 15 years later, I am grateful to be able to look back and see the growth of that little girl. That little scared girl who amazingly fought battles amongst peer full-grown adults. She fought those battles, got to the other side. Literally, she had arrived. And just to be able to just have such gratitude to get across the finish line, and then to be able to see that, like to see that little person and the other women who walk in the room, to know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to support her. I'm going to give her my telephone number. I'm going to love her until she can love herself. That fit you're having in the glass that just hit the wall has nothing to do with what I just said. Like to really be able to provide that for somebody else. It's the most rewarding experience I've had in this lifetime.
Wow. Jules, that is one hell of a story. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you so much for coming on and just, sharing that with us.
Yeah.
It's inspiring because it's, if you can go from, where you were to who you are today, anybody can. We all can.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. One thing that really impacted me is that I was told, because we talk about divine and, sources got us. And that was all pretty foreign to me. But I was told at one point in time that, Jules, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I was like, it gave this immediate sense of relief that this is all part of the process. Like the days you feel completely defeated and like, what am I doing? I'm not getting anywhere. That day is perfect because the next day you may reflect back upon that, right? To see that whole process, the whole journey. I think we're so quick for solutions and gratification, of course, right? So it's like, I don't have it right now, but it's part of the process. And it's just allowed me a lot of patience with things that I have no control over, even today. So, I'm grateful that, we get to have these chats. I mean, I feel like I've completely like dumped this brain bomb on you of 50 years worth of life, but
no, it's amazing. It's an amazing journey. It really is. So yeah, thank you. I just want to honor you,
Thank you.
So
yeah, we are so much stronger than we realize.
Yes,
we really, really are. And I think too, like looking back at your journey, like even just looking at the last like 48 hours, sometimes it's like, wow, that took a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so like journaling is big for me. I write this stuff down, I have those conversations with Source, and I circle myself with people who know exactly what I'm talking about. I am no longer in the shadows, and I'm no longer like speaking a different language. That was paramount for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we are out of time, even though I could keep talking forever on this. But yeah, I just can't thank you enough for coming on. This has just been a wonderful conversation.
I'm so glad. And definitely, if you have the chance, you pick up the book. I'm on social media, of course. My website
I'm totally getting the book as soon as we get done here. I'm heading over to Amazon. Listeners, I will have all of Jules' contact information, the link to the book, the link to her website, or social media. Everything is going to be in the show notes. Just go to releasingtraumapodcast.com and pull up her episode, and it will all be there for you.
Excellent. So I'll look forward to chatting with you guys.
Absolutely. Definitely. Absolutely. Well, listeners, as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in the next show. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure you hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss a show. Be sure to check us out on our new socials on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.